Thank you very much, Neil. I am really honored to be here. This is my splurge 3-day period where the Bushes take me in. Because when I leave you tonight, I'm going to Maine, where we are observing the call that President George H.W. Bush made in 1989 to all the governors to meet at the University of Virginia and promulgate the first national education goals in history. And we're going to do that when I leave here. But Gene Becker told me that I wouldn't get credit from President Bush 41 unless I did both events. And I've been doing what she tells me to do for years now, so I want to thank Ray Chambers, who is everything all of you said about him, and also has served as a distinguished member of the Clinton Health Access Initiative Board. I want to thank Lauren Bush Lauren and David Jones, the president of the Bush Foundation, and Natalie Paquin, the president of Points of Light. I also want to say that I'm really proud that my daughter and son-in-law, Chelsea and Mark, were asked to be on the committee for tonight because she was probably the first recipient in our family of George H.W. Bush's Point of Light. In 1983, the governors met in Portland, Maine. So we were all invited down to Kennebunkport, where we were treated to a cookout at the Bush compound. And so I was trying to explain to Chelsea, and Hillary was, that who then Vice President Bush was and what a vice president did and all of that and how important he was. And I said, you know, you'll probably get a chance to meet him and you must be really nice. And I said, you got it? And she said, I got it. So the moment came and I got up to Vice President Bush, and I said, Chelsea, this is Vice President Bush. And she shook his hand and looked at him and she said, where's the bathroom? And he left her, he took her by the hand and left us and took her to the bathroom, stopping only to introduce her to his mother. I want to say a special word of appreciation too before I say a couple more words to the people here at the Intrepid. I've been involved with the Intrepid, with the Fisher family, and with their mission a long time, and it's obviously very fitting that we would be here for President Bush's event on this particular ship. And I want to join in congratulating Maria Rose Belden and Chloe Thompson and Garth Brooks. He and Tricia have done a lot of wonderful things, some of which you'll hear about tonight. And I am grateful to them. Many people in this time of exceeding partisanship are amazed about the friendship that we built. It was built, first of all, on, at least from my point of view, on genuine mutual respect. Even when we had a tough race, I often went out of my way to do something that is considered bad politics today. I said, I have to tell you first, and I often said what I thought he had done right. And this guy came up to me, a big supporter of mine, and he said, are you out of your mind? I said, no. I said, most people down deep inside know that nobody's right all the time, nobody's wrong all the time, and people are basically good. And every now and then I met somebody who made it in politics who wasn't, but most people, no, not basically good, who wasn't all these things, but I said most people who make it to the top in any endeavor are smart, honest, hardworking, and well motivated. I wish more people believed that today. I remember even in 1992, we were having this tough campaign. I remember once Chelsea said, I know President Bush was hard on you last night, Dad, but never forget he took me to the bathroom. I was 3. You remember that. Kids do remember things. It registers, it stays with you. You can't shake it. I'll tell you something else, that at this education summit, we were sitting around and Hillary and I were having dinner with Vice President and Mrs. Bush, and because I was representing the Democrats and Governor Carroll Campbell of South Carolina was representing the Republicans at this education summit. And so we got seated there, and George and Hillary got into this discussion about early childhood health, which he cared a great deal about for reasons that I think are obvious. And she was talking about how our infant mortality rate was too high and what should be done. And he said, well, how high is it? And she said, I can't remember the number, but let's say she said, oh, we're about 18th in the world. He said, that's just not possible. And she said, but it is. She said, I do all this work with the Arkansas Children's Hospital, and I've been doing this since I was in law school. And she said, would you like me to get you the information? He said, no, I'll check it myself. As God is my witness, the very next night, he came up to me with a handwritten note to Hillary to say, you were right, thank you for telling me this, I'm going to see what I can do about it. Now, a lot of our later friendship we owe to George W. Bush, who is not here tonight. We were yesterday doing the Bloomberg Forum, and then Jeb Bush, who spent a lot of time of his own on education, is going to be at this meeting tomorrow. And he got the unhappy job of having to play about 9 holes of golf with me tomorrow because Kenny Bunkport has this tiny old wonderful golf course, which I have spent some happy times on with his dad, and I wanted one more chance to play it. But here's what I want to say. Years later, W gave us a chance to solidify our friendship by inviting me and him to raise money after the East Asian tsunami. It was a fascinating experience because most Americans didn't know that Sri Lanka used to be Ceylon. Most Americans didn't know where the Maldives were. But Americans gave $1 billion because they knew about the destruction. And it was the very first charitable endeavor conducted with internet giving, so that the median contribution, the one in the middle, was $56. It remained a record until the Haitian earthquake, where George W. Bush and I were asked by President Obama to work. That was the first cell phone disaster where you could text a number and send $10 to a given charity. We gave $1 billion. Again, the median contribution was $26. So this Points of Light thing has struck a very responsive chord. After we traveled to Southeast Asia together, my relationship with George H.W. Bush was never quite the same because I knew he had lost a child of his own. And we spent a lot of our time in 3 of the countries we visited with children who'd lost their parents. And we saw what I thought was an amazingly effective form of grief counseling, where these children would be given crayons and paper and asked to draw what they were feeling. And in the beginning, all the paintings were very dark. They drew the storm. Then they would draw something more realistic. One particularly gifted 11-year-old drew people drowning. Then they drew things happening that were good. My favorite drawing that either one of us got was of an American helicopter dropping supplies to people on the beach as other people were being pulled out of the water. Then, by the time we got to the last place and they were in the last phase of the grief counseling, they drew sunshine and flowers and children playing. So everywhere we went, kids would give us these drawings. And he grabs these drawings. You would have thought someone had given him a Picasso. And he held them next to his heart. And I knew what he really cared about. I miss George Bush, and I miss Barbara. It took me longer to win her over. And I know she's done this to her sons. She had that look like, okay, I got your number, but I like you anyway. I say that because in the last years of his life, he was free to do what I'm convinced he loved most to do, to give other people the chance to enjoy the happiness and fulfillment he had acquired in every role of service he undertook. And like Martin Luther King, he believed that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. That is what I want to leave you with. Whenever there's a change in administration, the outgoing president has a meeting with the incoming president and leaves a note later for Inauguration Day. Some of these meetings, as you might imagine, are not too pleasant. In the meeting we had, I asked him lots and lots of questions about things involving the post-Cold War transition and all the upheaval in former communist countries. And it's customary, if the president has something that he, so far, someday, I hope soon, she wants and believes in, that you ask your successor not to axe. And he asked me for one thing only, to please save the Points of Light program. And so we had a budget meeting in which I was cutting hundreds of millions of dollars in spending because the deficit was so big. We doubled the Points of Light budget because I knew, first of all, I knew how much it meant to him. Second, I respected him. And third, I believed that unleashing the power of individual passion and people working together is an irresistible force. I say that tonight because I urge you to not only applaud but thank the recipients of the honors tonight, and to continue doing this. We've been through a spell here where everybody's full of resentment, anger, and suspicion. And everything has to happen instantaneously. And it's easier to zap somebody in a hurry than it is to listen to their story and try to make something good happen. But over the long run, we have to get back to that. It's funny, the older I get and the less time I have left, the more I prefer the longer, harder path of actually trying to make something good happen instead of just make something bad happen to somebody you disagree with. George Bush spent his life trying to make something good happen. Like all of us, he was just a person. And we could all find things he did that maybe we didn't agree with, but he was right way more than he was wrong. And he was way more good than the inevitable dark side everybody has that we have to beat down every single day. In his heart, as in all of ours, there are scales. And over here is the light, and over here is the dark. And every day we wake up, we have to make sure our scales are properly balanced. More than just about anybody I've ever known. The light was always outweighing the dark. He did it by nature, he did it by discipline, and he did it with a big heart. That's what you honor tonight. His friendship with me in our later years is one of the great gifts of my life. And I hope that we can all honor it tonight and for the rest of our lives. Thank you.